So this question has been circling around for quite some time, honestly ever since Resident Evil 4 Remake got leaked. Resident Evil 5 is a very polarizing game in the franchise, but is also the most sold game in the entire series. Many have been speculating and wondering if this game will end up getting a remake after RE4, or the fan requested Code Veronica remake, but nonetheless, this video is going to be centered around why I think Resident Evil 5 should not get a remake. Before we get into it, a like on this video would be very appreciated, and be sure to subscribe to the channel as well, as you don't want to miss out on any of my videos and are looking forward to the Resident Evil content we have coming up in the near future. And now, let's get into the video. Resident Evil 5 still holds up even better than Resident Evil 4. RE5 tried to evolve multiple aspects from Resident Evil 4, whether if it was gameplay, a new partner system that was very cool, and the combat. It's not necessarily a carbon copy of what RE4 did, they just turned up the action and intensity but made it very fun, especially with the co-op feature the game had, along with great returning characters such as Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine and Albert Wesker, and a new character Sheva Alomar. In terms of the story, RE5 did the right thing by being the closing chapter to the Chris Redfield and Albert Wesker rivalry after the events of Resident Evil Code Veronica, of course. We also cannot forget about Jill, like Capcom has for the past 13 years for example, as she was arguably the key piece to the story as Chris went on a long journey to find her, which carried over to the Wesker-Chris rivalry as he found out he was alive this entire time. I personally thought the story of Resident Evil 5 was really good, but I just don't know how you can be able to reimagine it the way that the original did. Capcom can potentially remake this game solely because it is their most sold RE game of all time, and it's kinda like a double-edged sword in this situation. It would make Capcom a ton of money, which is a bonus for them if they choose to remake 5 with it having the co-op feature in the game, which was a very huge reason as to why the game sold so well, and that game doesn't even have that much ports as RE4 and still outperformed it in sales to this day. On the other hand, it could possibly give me the feeling of Capcom losing passion in remakes and only doing it solely for money purposes compared to the games that need the remake treatment. Take Code Veronica and Resident Evil 0 for example. Those two games in my opinion need the remake treatment more than ever for Resident Evil games. And if just out of nowhere Capcom does decide to end up remaking 5 before those games I mentioned, I wouldn't be surprised to be completely honest with you, and also fans having an outrage about it as well. Because we all know why RE4 got the remake before Code Veronica, money purposes. Did 4 need the remake? Probably, but comparing it to other games such as Code Veronica, Zero, and Outbreak, definitely not, and I know for damn sure 5 doesn't need a remake comparing to those games as well, but I'll gladly take an RE4 remake as it's my favorite game of all time. If you remake this game, you might as well remake all of the mainline games, and guess what, I'll include the Revelations games as well and create an alternate timeline in the Resident Evil series. Out of all of the third-person Resident Evil games that would probably need a remake, it would most likely be RE6. Even though it is a fun game to play the story, it was kind of wonky along with a character who I extremely disliked in Jake Mueller. Now why am I saying this? I honestly think that Resident Evil 6 should get the remake treatment before Resident Evil 5, but does it necessarily mean that it should get the remake treatment? No, it should definitely be untouched, but compared to those two games, I'd take RE6. And speaking about Jake Mueller, I just didn't see the reason as to why a Wesker child would be immediately thrown into the games after Wesker died 3 years before Jake showed up. Of course there were some other bright spots in the game like Sherry Birkin and Piers Nivens who died sadly, but in totality it needs the remake treatment way more than 4 honestly, and 5. You know what, now that I'm thinking about it, probably not 4, just 5 I would say. Fans have been heavily requesting a Code Veronica remake and a Zero remake, well, me mostly. And now I am surprisingly starting to notice quite a few fans wanting another remake of Resident Evil 1 again. And again, that includes me as well. I really don't know if Capcom will go down this route, but it all depends on the reviews and praise RE4 Remake gets if it turns out to be great. If it isn't good, however, I would ease up a little bit on those fan requested remakes. But let me know in the comments as to why you think RE5 should or should not get a remake. I plan on doing a co-op playthrough of RE5 with my best friend on Saturday, so be sure to tune into that stream. It's going to be an absolute blast. Anyways everyone, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, a like would be very appreciated and subscribing to the channel would be appreciated as well. I hope you guys have yourselves a good day, a good night, and a good sleep. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, and much love.